we as cyclists have to recognize that we're fragile. We're riding with a 1,000-pound beast just sitting there next to us, going twice the amount of speed, not even paying attention to us. And how important was it for you to have someone there to guide you through the legal process?
That was the most important thing for me. I even told my husband, I don't even care how much it costs or whatever. I don't want to deal with it.
I think health insurance is a racket.
Yeah.
I really do. And I see it a lot in the practice that I do as well. I have a client who gets in a crash and he's sent by ambulance to the hospital, has some CT scans done. He walks out of the hospital with a $30,000 bill.
I forced myself to go outside once in a while just to be social and see my friends. And then I was hit by a Chevy Tahoe on my way home one day from a ride.
Welcome to Turning Point's Covenant of Justice. My name is Isaiah Jerez. We're here today with one of my prior clients. Her name is Terri. We're going to discuss with her a traumatic situation that happened to her and how she's been able to come out on top and focus on being there for her husband and for her son. Thank you so much for coming in, Terri. I really appreciate it. I love your social media stuff, and I love your husband's social media stuff. I think he's very entertaining and very informative.
Yeah.
How long has he and you been in the social media space?
Well, he started his YouTube channel, I guess, back in 2015 when we were running a bartending school here in Las Vegas. But then we expanded and opened a school in Miami, and he just started building more content around his school to help advertise it. And then the whole COVID thing happened.
Oh.
So we had to close down the school, and then his channel kind of blew up during that time. So he started really into 2020 just focusing on YouTube because it was the only thing that was bringing us any money. And then it just kind of took off from there. And I also started my YouTube channel during that time as well, but mine was just for fun. And so it doesn't bring any money.
But it's fun. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's just fun. So I actually don't post that often. It's just when I want to, or when I have time, or when I'm not getting run over by a Chevy.
Oh, ouch. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, so when I started social media, right, I'm an attorney. And so it's a matter of, okay, I want to let people know that I'm an attorney. And so I started doing these videos talking about car crashes and, you know, what to do when you're pulled over by the police. And, you know, I just felt like that wasn't me. And so now I've kind of made it more shift and started focusing on, okay, what is it that makes me me? And it's much more enjoyable than trying to fit into some kind of box that I think people want.
Yeah.
And so you having fun with your own social media stuff, like what has that been like?
So I kind of try to bring some sort of value to people so in my content. So I don't just like post like my vlog about how my day went and stuff. I'll go out and do a race or something, but I'm not a pro triathlete. I'm not a pro cyclist, but there was a time I was very good at it. But I would go out there and do a race or a challenge, and I would just show everything, the good, the bad, what I need to work on, try to help people understand that like I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm learning, and you can learn with me. So.
Yeah, and what great access and important information for people to then go and say, look, okay, I'm going to do a triathlon. And so what has Terri done? And go through and walk through your learning process, right? To see what the challenges are and to be prepared for that.
Yeah, and some other fun ones I did, like I went up to St. George and broke down the 70.3 Ironman course. So I went out and actually rode my bike the entire course. I ran the entire course, which was awful. And I basically said, it's really awful. I'm running up this 9% grade here. So if you don't like to run uphill, then it's probably not your race for you.
And I'm not a triathlete, but my understanding is that bike course out there is one of the toughest of the half Ironman, right?
Yeah, so you go up to, I believe it's called Snow Canyon, and you just go up. And there's no break from it. So if you don't like to climb on your bike, it's probably not the race for you.
Especially as a triathlete, because when you're climbing on your bike, you're down in the drops.
Not on the climbs generally, but yeah, your bars, your handlebars are lower than a regular road bike or whatever. So it's not pleasant to climb on a tri-bike.
Yeah. So your social media is a lot focused on athletics, right? And being a triathlete, so running, swimming, and biking. Which is your favorite?
Biking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it about biking that differentiates it from the other two?
The fact that you can go out there and you can push yourself really hard, and then everything leaves your mind because you're so focused on staying like up in this high pressure, like keeping your legs moving and stuff and staying with the people in front of you, or even by yourself getting up that hill. Everything just leaves your mind. So it's good therapy, basically. I love it. Then it's also, if you get tired, you can coast.
Yeah.
It's not like running. You always have to be running or you just stop.
Yeah.
At least on the bike, you can like take it easy if you want to.
And still move at a good pace.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love cycling. When I graduated law school, I thought I needed to do what attorneys do. I got to go golf. And so I had picked up a set of golf clubs and got together with some buddies and went out and tried to golf for about 4 months. And I just hated the sport. I just couldn't do it. I'm walking around doing nothing, just swinging a stick.
Yeah.
And so I finally convinced my wife to say, hey, like, let me try cycling. And so then I got into that, and life hasn't been the same ever since. It's so enjoyable, so great to be out there on the open road. Luckily here in Vegas, like, we have a lot of roads to ride on, and then it's usually during the summertime that I'll ride inside on a trainer to then focus some training because it's too hot outside. Do you ride a lot indoors?
Actually, 100% of my riding now is indoors.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. How come it shifted from riding outside and then to 100% indoors?
So I was doing a lot of my training anyways on the trainer because I fell in love with Ruby, which is an online cycling app. So I would say I was doing about 90% of my training anyway, and I forced myself to go outside once in a while just to be social and see my friends. And then I was hit by a Chevy Tahoe on my way home one day from a ride. So yeah, you know the story there. I was 3 months in a halo. I'm the luckiest person alive, basically, because I fractured my C2 vertebrae and my T1 vertebrae. I broke my face. They were treating it like a fatality. They said there's no way, the cops working the scene, so there's no way I was going to make it. And somehow I made it. I had to wear a halo for 3 months, and then for a month after that, I also had to wear a neck brace once that was taken off. And I still don't have full range of my neck, but it's getting there. It's been 6 months. They expected it to take a year or two for me to recover, and I'm already pretty much recovered, so.
What do the doctors attribute that to? You recovered in a quarter of the amount of time that they anticipated.
Yeah, the surgeon is just completely blown away. Like, you could tell he didn't believe he was telling me that I could do. He's like, when I went for my last meeting with him, he said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to know if I can swim, run, ride my bike inside. He's like, yeah, you can do any of that. Just don't do anything with high impact. I said, okay, so no running. He's like, no, you can run. Just don't get punched in the face or anything. And I'm like, okay, so no boxing. Because like the highest impact stuff I do is running. So I figured my brain's going to be bouncing around. And he said, no, that's fine. He's like, yeah. He's like, your fracture's all healed. You don't have any ligamentous injury.
Do you attribute that to anything, to this quick healing of the process?
Well, I was in shape, always worked hard on my exercise. I'm very anal about my nutrition. Like, I really don't put much junk into my body, and I like every day my son was making me a smoothie with all my goodies in it. And I also have a PEMF mat, which pulse electromagnetic frequency. I laid on that for 1 hour to 2 hours every single day. So you don't feel anything when you lay on it, so I wasn't sure if it was working or not, but I did heal. I might have. It might have helped.
Yeah. So taking the recovery process very seriously, treating your body, something that was very important for you, and not only nutrition, but then also externally, what could you do by laying on this mat? I know as well, like, you started walking probably earlier than the doctors might have liked as well.
A couple of days after the accident. Yeah. They put the halo on the day after the accident, and I was up walking that day.
Doing as much as you could to accelerate that body to then recover.
I don't remember anything from the accident or even at the hospital or even my first few days at home. Like, the first day I remember my husband would take me walking in our backyard. He would walk me from one end of the house to the other end of the house, just in the backyard. And the first day I remember doing that, I remember thinking, this is so stupid. Why is he making me walk to the end of the house and back? Like, that's so easy. But he said when he first brought me home, I couldn't do that. And I'm like, oh, I don't remember that.
Yes, you said they treat it like a fatality,
Yeah.
and then amazingly you were able to survive, and not only survive, but make a very solid recovery. But what has that recovery process looked like or been like for you personally?
Like when I first started cycling 5 years ago, I went to a century ride at the Tour de Palm Springs, and I witnessed a cyclist being hit by a car and killed. So PTSD from that day was pretty bad. Like it took me a couple months to get over that. And I think going through that experience really helped me with stuff like that, because after my experience, I was totally fine. Nothing. Even wearing the halo, I was always like positive and joking about how ridiculous I looked wearing a halo. My husband would walk in the room and I'd start dancing like this. Yeah, it never bothered me. It was so uncomfortable, but I knew it was just a phase, and after 3 months max, it'd be gone, and we move on to the next stage in life.
So maintaining a positive perspective, seeing in contrast what could have been.
Yeah. Everybody says how amazing it was, how positive I was able to stay, but for me, that's just who I am. I always am able to keep a positive perspective on things. So there were times I even said to my husband, I think it's probably good this happened to me and not someone else, because I'm okay with it. Because all I have to do is look in the mirror and see how and I laugh.
Yeah. That's pretty good. So, and I know from your social media stuff and from the community that you were a very safe rider, and you focus on safety and you preach it and you teach it to other people as well on your social media, that, okay, we as cyclists, we have to recognize that we're fragile, right? We're riding with a 1,000-pound beast just sitting there next to us, going twice the amount of speed, not even paying attention to us. And so we've really got to be aware of our surroundings. We got to make sure we're riding in the bike lane. We got to make sure we stop at red lights. We got to make sure that, that we're conscious of the bikes. And you rode like that.
Yeah.
But yet you were still found in that type of situation.
It just blows my mind completely, because I was the one that would be in a group ride and the light would turn yellow, and I'd stop while everybody flew past me through the yellow as it turned red. And I would sit there and wait for the red light to turn green. Like, that's how safe I was, and I was always cautious, always stopped at the stop signs. I always expected to get hit by the car because, we've lost people, we've lost friends already. I've seen people killed. It's horrible, and I just always rode knowing that it's very possible this could happen to me. The day of my accident, I was riding home from coffee. Like, we just did a group ride with everybody. We had coffee, and I should go up, like, Eastern's the fastest way for me to get home, but I would never ride my bike on Eastern because that's like suicide. So I rode on Pecos, so we have, like, the bike lane and the shoulder, and then the bike lane's in between the shoulder and like this like lane that's just marked off that's not for anything.
Gives you extra space as a cyclist.
So basically you have like 8 feet of space as a cyclist on Pecos that no one's gonna touch you in. And I was going through a green light, and then the Tahoe is turning left in front of me, and I didn't have time to stop. So he turned left on a blinking yellow, and I had the green light, and there's nothing I could do about it. This is the bottom of a hill, so I know in that spot I would at least been doing 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, and you talk about how we've all lost friends, right? We've lost loved ones who have been killed tragically by inattentive drivers, drunk drivers, drivers that are asleep at the wheel. And there was the big fatality out here in December of 2020 where several of our friends lost their lives. Right after that, I had planned to ride my bike to work, and I woke up and I had this conversation with my wife. My wife just told me, you can't be fearful, you got to do it. And so it was nice to have that support for her, from her. And so the next day I went out and rode my bike to work, trying not to be fearful of it. But recently I had a friend that lost his life, and after that I didn't ride outside for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. It was with your crash, with other friends' crashes, and then him losing his life, it was hard for me. I was seriously fearful of getting back outside to ride the bike. And now with you and you saying you're riding 100% inside, do you think you'll ever be able to get out there and ride on the road again?
I have no problem going out there today and riding my bike outside with cars. I have no PTSD. I'm not afraid of it. If something were to happen to me, I'd be okay. Like, either I wouldn't remember it or I'd die. So, like, I'm not scared of it. But I don't remember anything that happened to me. But my husband and my son, the PTSD is really bad with them. And I try not to cry when I talk about that, but I can't risk doing that to them ever again. My family is more important to me than riding a bike, basically.
Yeah, how amazing. Something that you love, something that has been so inspiring for you. And I think here in Las Vegas, we have a great cycling community and we're almost like a family. But yeah, your family at home, like it's a sacrifice you have to make for them.
Yeah, and I'm totally okay with that. Ruby, who I said that became addicted with them in COVID year. Like, I was at home riding my bike all the time, and then I started making a bunch of YouTube videos about them. So they reached out to me and asked me to be an ambassador. And I said, it makes sense. I'm on riding Ruby every day anyway. So I became ambassador, and they've been insanely supportive through this whole process. Yeah, so I told them, don't worry. Like, when I get back on that bike, I'm going to be the best ambassador ever.
I haven't done Ruby before, but having these platforms where we can ride together remotely in a safe place is just inspiring to build each other up, right?
Yeah.
So if you're okay, if we can talk a little bit about the legal side of the crash. So when it happened, the guy was turning left on a blinking light, and I had received a call, I think was from Vlad. Vlad had reached out to me and let me know what was going on. And I went to your house, met with the two of you. And then later on, when you guys came to my office, Vlad made the joke like, oh, we thought you were just Better Call Saul. Like, you guys didn't even have an office. Like, you just showed up out of nowhere and came to our house. Yeah. That's what I guess my question to you is like, okay, were you concerned? Like, okay, this guy just shows up and he like shows up at our house, doesn't even invite us to his office, or?
I thought it was great because, you showed up, you saw what I looked like. For me to go anywhere was hard. It was hard work for me to try to get into our little car with that halo on. So it was much appreciated that you came. You were recommended by some of my best friends in the cycling community, Joseph. And I know you helped my friend Mike Kennedy and Joelle, who cleans my pool now. Yeah. And then so they all recommended you. And then you came to my house, and I wasn't sure what to do with the bike. So you took the bike to the bike shop for me. It was incredible. I told Vladimir, I'm like, we picked the right guy.
For me, it's such an important part of the community is that we stick together. And so for me to go to your home, I felt more than invited to be there. And it was such a loving home that I believe your mom was there, your son was there, and of course Vlad was there. But you had a lot of loving support by your family that was there to help out. And for me as well, like to be there, like for me, it's nothing because I see my daughter in you, right? My daughter rides my bike. I see my son and my buddies that ride the bike out. And for anything to happen to my daughter, to my son, it would just be so traumatizing. And so, to see it happen to you, it's traumatizing to me because I love riding the bike. And I don't know if I could ever give it up. And I think my wife would never ask me to give it up. Right. Maybe, right? Yeah. But she's very supportive of it. And so any way that I could be there for those in the community, I love the opportunity to do it. And so dealing with the process, you had been transported to the hospital and you had a huge emergency room bill. Yeah. No insurance? Nope. Or no health insurance, right?
No health insurance.
Yeah, but you and Vlad are both business owners, right? Yeah. And kind of no health insurance. Yeah. And so what was that like, facing this big, humongous bill from the emergency room?
So it's funny because we came home and, like I said, I was like super positive all the way. Like even when we came home from the hospital, I'm like, wow, we're going to get a really big bill and we don't have insurance.
Was it the meds that you were so positive off of?
Yeah, probably, because I was still taking them for like 2 days. But I'm like, that's fine. I'll go back to work. Even if I have like a bill to pay the rest of my life, at least like I'm here to do it. So I was totally okay with it. But then another thing, like my friend started a GoFundMe for me, which is insane. And within a week, it was up to $23,000. And the hospital bill, after everything was said and done, the hospital bill was $273,000. But we called them and they said, well, you don't have health insurance, so we can give you a discount if you pay everything up front. And so they cut it down 92% to 18 grand. And so same with the surgical bill was 4,200 and they cut it down to 3 grand. So
42,000 and then they cut it down.
No, 4,200.
40.
Yeah,
oh,
just for the medical, just to put the halo on, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Was 4,200, and they cut it down to 3,000. Then I had some random doctors that came in and sent me a bill too. So there was like a couple thousand there, but it ended up being about the 23 grand that I got from the GoFundMe. So that basically covered it.
And again, I really think it's part of the community here in Vegas, the cycling community, where they see themselves in you, right, and what you went through. And so, yeah, I think more than happy to help out in that situation to then provide the funds to then help with that.
Yeah, and it was a friend of mine in the Netherlands who actually created the GoFundMe for me. Oh, she was the whole reason I started riding a bike in the first place. She was living in Vegas at the time and did this big charity bike ride, and I never rode a bike before, so she let me ride her road bike. It was in the middle of June, 40 miles out at Red Rock. And I didn't have clipped-in pedals or anything. I was just...
So let's give a little more context. This is middle of June.
Yeah.
And so...
110 degrees.
With the
flat pedals.
Sun just blazing down on you.
And 40 miles. Never rode a bike before, and I'm trying 40 miles out at Red Rock. So, yeah, it was hard at the end of the ride, and I got to the top of Desert Foothills and fell. Oh. I was so tired coming up that last hill. And my friend was next to me, and I'm like, I'm falling. I said in slow motion. And I fell, and then all the way back to the finish line was all downhill. So I said, I got done, and I'm like, I need to buy a bike.
Yeah.
It was so hard, but I just had so much fun pushing myself. Like, I just loved it. So I that's when I found a bike, and that friend, she's one of my best friends. We keep in good touch, but she lives in the Netherlands now with her kids, and then she heard about the accident, wanted to start a GoFundMe, and then everybody was trying to reach out to Vladimir that day too, and Tony Capsuto reached out to Vladimir and said if there's anything I can do. So he put him in touch with my friend Monique in the Netherlands, and they worked together to get the GoFundMe up. So she said she stayed up late over there because it's 9 or 10 hours ahead of here, and she was just up late making sure it was done before she went to bed.
Yeah, some of the best friends that I've made cycling, right? You spend hours with somebody riding with them, you really get to know them.
Yeah.
They get to know not only the positive things about us, but maybe the weird quirks about us, the negative things about us. And we just learn to love each other, and we're out there suffering, and we can build lifelong relationships out there riding the bike. Yeah, that's wonderful. And so the GoFundMe helps pay some of the medical bills.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you had what is called underinsured motorist coverage.
Yeah.
And that helped in some recovery as well. When you had purchased that insurance from your insurance company, did you realize that was going to help you in a bike crash?
No, I didn't. You told me that thing, and I'm like, never even heard of that. I didn't know I had that, but I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
Because that helped out a lot, yeah.
And a lot of people don't recognize it, the importance of it. And so when we buy our car insurance policy, we think it's just going to apply to us when we're driving our car. And when we buy insurance, especially if you're riding a bike, it's very important to have uninsured motorist coverage, because this is going to protect you when you're riding your bike if you're hit by a car. And so when we discuss this, it, like you had said, like you had no idea that it may apply, but thankfully you had purchased it. And I think within a matter of weeks after the crash, we were able to get you that money.
Yeah. Yeah, that was was pretty much, it felt like right away for me. Yeah, it was really like a sigh of relief, because, that helped out a lot, because then I didn't have to worry about going back to work. I didn't have to worry about medical bills.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that when you're injured, dealing with work, dealing with life and everything, there's just so much that you can't do when you're in that situation. And so how do you maintain your life? Because you can't immediately settle against the person that's at fault, because sometimes there are certain contingencies that need to be met before obtaining that money. Mm-hmm. And so having that UIM coverage was a huge blessing, I think, for you.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and so for whatever reason, you guys purchased it, and it was great to have it.
Yeah, I don't even know why we purchased that, but yeah, I'm so glad. So I will tell everybody, make sure you have this.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have health insurance.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do want to mention about something about that with if we did have health insurance, like I applied for it last year, and just on the caliber of the money that we make, we were going to have to pay $750 a month for health insurance, and plus our deductible would have been $10,000. And I told my husband, like, do we really need help? Like, we never go to the doctor for anything. We take care of, we know our bodies, we take care of ourselves, we eat right. If we ever go to the doctor, we could just pay cash, like I did most of the time anyways, like for like little things. I said, I don't think we need health insurance. We should just put $750 a month towards like stocks or something, and maybe it'll increase. And so that's the whole reason we didn't get insurance. And so basically this accident out of our pocket for insurance would have been $750 a month plus a $10,000 deductible would have been completely used up. So that's 19 grand right there. And that was basically more than the hospital bill was.
Yeah.
So for us, it was fine that we didn't have insurance.
Yeah, I think health insurance is a racket.
Yeah.
I really do. And I see it a lot in the practice that I do as well, where you have these hospitals. I have a client who gets in a crash and he's sent by ambulance to the hospital, has some CT scans done, and he walks out of the hospital with a $30,000 bill. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, it does not cost that much to get a CT scan. It does not cost that much to get a ride in an ambulance.
Yeah.
And the hospital is definitely not worth $30,000. But what the hospitals do is they keep jacking up their prices in the hope that Medicare, Medicaid is going to increase the amount of reimbursements, but they don't. Medicare and Medicaid don't increase their reimbursements, but nevertheless, the hospitals continue to jack up their prices. And so what do the health insurance companies come in and do? They're kind of caught in between the two of them, and they just try to find a way to they've got to negotiate with the hospitals. But what they're really doing is they're just taking money from everybody else and holding on to their money. And then they just continue to negotiate with the hospitals and paying something much less. My family were in a similar situation. For the team members that I have, I pay for their health insurance. But for my family, we found it different, where we are involved in a health trust. And so we have 7, there's 5 kids, 2 kids. And so what we do is we pay about $300 a month to this health trust. And it's a large deductible, it's $10,000. And it's just in case of an emergency, right? We don't get the same benefits with health insurance, but it's just that backstop, right? What if one of us gets cancer, or what if something severely drastically happens? But yeah, health insurance is just a racket, and you really don't see the benefit, like you're talking about. Yeah, $750 a month times 12, plus the $10,000.
Yeah.
No, we turned out better, right?
Yeah, that's why I told my husband, like, I don't think we need insurance either this year either. Like, why?
Yeah. We go to the doctors, and we always tell the doctors we're just going to do cash pay.
Yeah.
And the doctors are more than happy to take cash pay because they don't have to deal with the administrative headache of trying to get paid by the insurance company. They know they just get the money right there up front.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little bit more expensive. Maybe I end up paying a little bit more than we would have to with insurance, but it makes it much more convenient, and it gives our family a peace of mind saying, hey, we can go ahead and choose what we're going to do. That's one thing that luckily was, that we have the option. Before, I think under Obamacare, when that first came into place, we were paying the penalty because it made more sense for us to pay the penalty than I think it was going to cost us like $1,500 a month to get health insurance for the family. Yeah. But it was cheaper for us to pay the penalty, get the health trust, and deal with it that way. Because our main focus is on the front.
Right.
Like, we want to take care of our bodies, right? We don't want to get diabetes. We don't want to deal with obesity. And so what can we do is, like you said, like, we're very conscious as to what we're eating, what we're putting into our body to make sure we maintain that good health. What is some of that technology that can help us be safe on the bike when we're out there riding our bikes?
Well, obviously lights, So hopefully you can be more visible to the drivers around you, the ones that are paying attention. They have sensors now. One of the guys I rode with always had the sensor on. So like if a car was coming up, it would beep. So it was like basically the whole ride in here, beep, 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 beep. It's like really annoying to be safe.
Yeah. But is it worth it to have the annoyance to then focus on being safe?
I don't, for me, I don't think it's worth it because I never ride with headphones in or anything. I can always hear cars coming. That's kind of like how I knew that accident was going to happen in Palm Springs. Like I heard the car coming and I knew he was going too fast and I was about to pass the group. But I slowed down. I said basically I was basically coasting on my bike because I could hear him coming. And sure enough, crashed right into that group I was about to pass. And one of the guys was killed immediately. And like, because I heard that coming. So I don't think, for me personally, I don't think the sensors are super necessary. But maybe if you're older, hard of hearing or something, that's one of the good things you could get. The indoor smart trainer is good, so you can ride on like Ruby.
Yeah.
That's always safe. Although my sister did manage to fall off her trainer. So.
Oh, no. Yeah. Have you ever ridden on rollers?
Yeah, I actually have a viral video of me falling off the rollers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get back on the rollers?
Yeah, after I fell that one time I got on it was immediately easy and no problems ever since. But I lent them to a friend, so he's using them now.
Yeah, I love the rollers. There was a time when I would have got on the rollers every day and pull my bike on, spin for about 30 minutes, and then jump off and then go right outside because it really focuses on your core, the core strength, right? You've got to maintain that balance.
Yeah.
It's like riding your bike on ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've really got to be able to be strong and be focused.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So a lot of Ruby. How many hours are you putting in on Ruby?
I just basically past month started doing like one ride per week. I do a group ride every Saturday.
Yeah.
This is the first week where I did more than one ride. So I already did 3. I did an FTP test today.
Oh, congratulations. Those
Yeah.
are always tough. I hate the FTP test.
Yeah, everybody hates those, but
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it was my base one, so I'm like, it doesn't have to be so scary.
I love the option on some of the devices where it just can give you the AI calculated FTP, and I'll just go like, all right, I'll take that. I don't want to do the FTP test.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got to go into the pain cave. I mean, if you're doing
Yeah.
an FTP test, you really got to be willing to be able to suffer.
Yeah, and like I'm still not there yet. Well, I feel like I could be, but I'm still forcing myself to kind of take things easy. So, because I'm still questioning if I'm capable yet. So like I'm doing all zone 2 training, and today was the first day that I actually pushed myself. So like my heart rate was in zone 5 for a lot of the time. I know I could have went harder if I were going my hardest, but I still did pretty good.
That's wonderful, right? Because it's after being off the bike for so long, a lot of atrophy has set in within the legs and the core, and so it's building that back up then, and it's taken a while and waiting to find out what your limits are, it sounds like.
Yeah. Honestly, though, the core I think was totally fine because
Really?
I had that halo on. Anytime someone came in the room and said something, I'd have to be like, "What?
Oh.
What?" Like my core was so strong after I had that halo taken off. I was always turning my whole body
Yeah.
to see whatever was happening around me.
Yeah. So you talked about how you found me by being recommended by some good friends. And how important was it for you to have someone there to guide you through the legal process?
That was the most important thing for me. I even told my husband, I said, I don't even care how much it costs or whatever. I said, it's just, I don't want to deal with it. And it was the same with the driver. I didn't know anything about the driver. I didn't know if he's a good man. I don't know if he did it on purpose. Like it didn't, I don't want to have to think about that. I want someone to completely take that off my mind so I don't have to think about who that driver was. And just, you guys just tell me when it's done.
Yeah.
That was really important. It was a huge relief for me because I would just wake up every day and just like make sure I was only like, reading happy news everywhere and I was fine.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I love about my job is, look, you were put in naturally into this position. No choice of your own, just because someone wasn't paying attention or driving recklessly. You were found in a very traumatic situation. And so for me to come in and to step in and to then provide the legal knowledge and the expertise to then guide you through the process and you not having to worry about it and then finding the right result for you and your family. That's what makes me passionate about what I do, is really being able to help people and be there for them at a time that's tough for them. Would you recommend me to?
I already did. I recommended everybody. I said, especially if you ride a bike and you want someone who's passionate about helping us.
You're pretty active on social media. Where can people find you?
They can find me. My name everywhere is I'm Terri B. IMTERRIBEE.
Thank you so much, Terri, for coming in, and I really appreciate getting to know you and your family.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.